or as part of secret CIA brainwashing experiments conducted on women suffering from postpartum depression in Montreal. LSD would become part of the treatment at Oakridge as well. So would other mind-altering drugs.
They had the power, and you did what they said or you didn't see daylight. What they would do is they would say, we want you to take an LSD treatment, or we want you to take an amytalmethadrine treatment, or we want you to take a scopolamine treatment. So we want you to write a request to us to do that treatment. Now, you're going to write that request, whether you want to or not, because you're being told to by the people who hold the power.
Sleep deprivation, being forced to sit without any movement for hours on end, withholding food, all part of the treatment. Sometimes patients would be physically lashed together, even to sleep or go to the bathroom, for hours, even days. And then there was the capsule. As many as 6 or 7 men would be stripped naked and placed in an 8-by-10 room for as long as 2 weeks. There was a simple wash basin and toilet, holes in the walls to provide food through straws, and a camera recording everything. The temperature and light would be altered from one extreme to the other. No blankets, no mattresses.
The point of the whole program was to break us down mentally, because they believed if they could strip away all our bad defenses that got us into trouble, break us down mentally, they could rebuild us as better human beings.
When asked by a BBC reporter if what they were doing amounted to brainwashing, Superintendent Boyd rejected the term, not the notion.
It's no doubt true that many of the techniques that they use in brainwashing are effective, and that we are using somewhat similar techniques. The group pressures, the use of drugs, the use of sleep deprivation, in some cases fasting. These things help to bring about a change in one's personality structure, which is what we're trying to do with these character disorders.
But that's not brainwashing.
We don't use the term.
If we can't build them up, we'll blow them up. In other words, if we can't fix them, we'll destroy them. Everybody there came to a belief at one point or another that they were being destroyed. It was insane. It was insane. I was standing in the sunroom looking at a man who was going through a psychotic episode, and he was pointing at me and cursing and swearing. He didn't even know I was there. He was seeing somebody between him and me. And he flew across that room and put a boot in my ribs.
The worst for Jim was scopolamine, also known on the street as devil's breath.
Literally out of my mind. I'd look across the floor at a roll of toilet paper, and it would grow ears and teeth and snarl, and it became a vicious animal ready to attack me. And I would put the covers over my head and hope that it couldn't get at me, but I couldn't sleep.
For 3 years, Jim suffered through what he says was nothing short of torture. A parliamentary subcommittee toured the facility and called the Oakridge experience not an experiment, but rather a technique of demonstrated success. Complaints were sent to the Ontario Ombudsman, who retained specialists to review the program. They found it to be one of the most forward-thinking programs in the world. But by the late 1970s, the controversial program was finally shut down over safety concerns by security staff. As it turns out, many of those released went on to commit serious crimes.
We had some serial rapes, we had at least half a dozen murders.
In 1997, almost 20 years later, Dr. Marnie Rice, at the time the director of research at the Mental Health Center, studied the cases of hundreds of men who were put through the social therapy unit and then released.
What we found was startling. Those psychopaths who participated in the program had a significantly worse outcome than the psychopaths who did not participate in the program but went to prison instead. This was truly remarkable, that you could change the behavior of psychopaths, but it was for the worse.
If Jim was angry when he was sent to Oakridge, By the time he was released in 1976, he had become completely dysfunctional.
I wasn't ready to be on the street. I couldn't function on the street at that time after
And you were angry.
And I was angry. Yes, I was angry. I hated them. I hated what they did. I hated what they stood for. That anger, and I couldn't control the anger. I'd lost any ability to get hold of that anger.
That anger led to more charges and 28 more years of incarceration. The last time over 19 years in Manitoba's Stony Mountain Penitentiary for attempted murder.
Who do you blame for all this?
You know, that's me. I committed the acts. They didn't. I did. So the only person I can blame is me for putting that rage in me, for betraying me when I needed help. Yes, absolutely them.
We've been working on this for over a decade, 15 plus years. So here's another stack of documents.
Lawyer Joel Rochon has collected tens of thousands of documents and now represents over 30 clients, all former patients, all looking for what he calls some level of justice from Doctors Barker and Meyer, as well as from the province, for what they say was done to them.
Here's an example of an institution that was designed to deliver health care to a group of vulnerable individuals who needed help desperately to deal with their psychiatric condition. And instead of getting proper medical care, they were abused, tortured, and put into all manner of programming that had no basis in science.
Both doctors and the province have declined comment, but in a statement of defense deny any wrongdoing, saying programs were only provided to patients who voluntarily requested the treatment. But under such conditions, was any level of consent even possible? Not according to Professor Bernard Dickens, Professor Emeritus of Health Law and Policy at the University of Toronto and former chair of the Research Ethics Board of Health Canada. He describes the professional behavior at Oakridge as startling.
There seemed to be no awareness of the minimal requirements of ethical research conduct. The free consent was clearly not feasible with a captive, literally a captive population facing indeterminate sentence.
The last thing Jim Motherall remembers about Oakridge was the suicide of his good friend.
And in the morning, when they found him, they cut him down and they pulled his body out into the hallway. And they laid it there, and we were in a sunroom program at the time. And all of us had to walk by him to go to breakfast. And I truly believe that their intent was to send us a very clear message. Human life really doesn't matter. We have no respect for it.
So that's one of your last memories?
That's one of my last memories of this crap hole.
Jim has been out now for 12 years after finally getting the help he needed. He's been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress, still suffers flashbacks from the drug treatments.
That's the wood for the fire.
Okay, great. Still has nightmares and trouble with relationships. But he has managed to reconnect with family and make some good friends. Surprisingly, at times he thinks he's actually the lucky one.
This isn't just about me. This is about guys who can't speak. This is about guys who can't defend themselves, guys who can't tell everybody what happened to them. They just have to suffer in silence and locked up or in a mental institution. They don't have the opportunity to come out and confront these men.
There we go. That's cool.
Now 65, it's taken a lifetime for Jim Motherall to get here, to get past what was done to him.
All those years when I heard over and over, take responsibility for your actions, take responsibility for what you do, And they've managed to get away without taking responsibility for the last 48 years, and I think it's about damn time they did. I'm hoping that by the time I'm through this, I can breathe a sigh of relief and walk away and not look back and not have another dream.
Under my skin and call yourself a friend. I've got more friends like you. What do I do? Is there no standing anymore?
Okay, so I start every class that I teach by explaining to my students my pedagogical approach. I say, my job is to irritate you.
But anyway, I had to go to the nut house for 2 months, where you could possibly get locked up for the rest of your life at the maximum security place in Penetang.
What is your favorite part about the building?
It's my life. It's me.
They've got the new building going, the new atrium. They're actually doing a big 360 to treat patients as patients and not as criminals, as what this building kind of gives you that feeling for, that it's more of a prison than a hospital setting. The new building is really receptive to the patients now that are down there.
When I walk in and walk down the corridor, I think about all the good times that I've had here. So that's what I'm going to miss about the building, is really just the memories that it holds for me.
I'm John LeClaire. Welcome to my study. And this is Keys to Our Past.
Okay, so I start every class that I teach by explaining to my students my pedagogical approach. I say, my job is to irritate you.
To get pushed over the edge so they will act out. For instance, if they were to commit a crime against, one of their gang stalkers or commit suicide.